Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And I am so excited today because we're going to be talking to a gentleman who, to say he has a busy life would be an understatement. He has done so many incredible things and continues to do them. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Ravi Iyer to our program today. Welcome, Dr. Iyer. How are you?
Thank you, Deb, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Great. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will jump into this. So Dr. Ravi Iyer, MD, is a TEDx speaker, an author, coach, and president of the Reston Towncenter Toastmasters Club. He is a renowned expert in personal and professional transformation. As CEO of IR FocalPoint, the Iyer Clinic, and ActivPower Inc., he helps high-achieving individuals, including C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and athletes, unlock their full potential through mastery of inner silence. His acclaimed programs, such as the Art of Living Leadership and Cognitive Alignment Workshop, empower clients to break free from limiting patterns, achieve clarity, and cultivate purpose-driven lives. Specializing in rapid mindset shifts, Dr. Iyer guides individuals from a consumer mindset to a creator's perspective, enabling decisive action and freedom from mental clutter. As a podcast guest, Dr. Iyer delivers actionable insights on mental clarity, work-life balance, and aligning life with core values, inspiring listeners to embrace change and achieve deeper fulfillment and success. And what his bio doesn't say is that the medical school he went to is that little place called Harvard, right? And he is the author of many books, including The Art of Viral Speaking and Squirrels in My Brain, which is how to create neuro-aligned super teams. So again, Dr. Iyer, welcome.
Thank you. That was a pretty long bio. I actually did my basic physician's degree from India. I graduated in 1983. I got my license in 1983, January. So this year is, I've been a physician for 42 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and across two sides of the globe. I spent a couple of years in the rural hospitals of my medical school. It was in Patna, India. Very, very a rather impoverished state. Comparison to a US would be one of the maybe one of the Appalachian hill states where the average income of the population would have been pretty low. Very agricultural, and also very feudalistic. So I did my couple of years of clinical work after graduation there before I got tired of diagnosing disease but not having the tools to actually treat it.
Right.
So I had the ability. All my textbooks were American textbooks. So I knew enough to diagnose the disease, but then I would have to say, I'm sorry, but the medicine for this is not available, or surgery for this is not available, or you need a heart valve, but we can't give you a heart valve, and things like that. I got very frustrated having to constantly do that rote. And so I abandoned medicine and I went into basic research. I was good at both
Okay.
sides, which is unusual because most medical students are either good in the
Right.
scientific disciplines or
Mm-hmm.
they are good in the clinical
Mm-hmm.
disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
They are very seldom are they comfortable straddling both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very easy for me to move both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I just switched and I had no regret. I went and did a doctoral degree in biochemistry, molecular biology, and
Mm-hmm.
immunology. Um, and that I went and got admitted to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got my degree. I was working on tuberculosis and leprosy.
Ah.
So I was studying the immunological basis of how the body destroys these organisms
Mm-hmm.
because while the vast majority of people with leprosy don't get cured by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
there is a very small population of people. Every now and then you'll find somebody who gets infected with leprosy and then is able to mount a defense and actually cure themselves.
Wow. Yeah. So something
That
internally.
something
Mm-hmm.
in their
Mm-hmm.
body gets triggered and they are able to successfully eradicate the bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very intrigued as to what is so special about this small random number of people who you
Mm-hmm.
can't predict who it will be, but
Mm-hmm.
when it happens, it's always miraculous because
Mm-hmm.
it's wonderful to know that the person has cleared the
Mm-hmm.
disease. Uh, so I wanted to know what was happening in their body. So that was my whole doctoral work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to the US to present at the UCLA Symposia. In those
Mm-hmm.
days, it used to be known as UCLA Symposia.
Mm-hmm.
Later, its name got changed to Keystone Symposia,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
but it was being held in Los Angeles
Mm-hmm.
at that time. Um, then they shifted to Keystone, and it was being held in Colorado afterwards. But I came, so at that time, the US was not giving visas uh, for medical graduates
Mm-hmm.
because there was always this concern this was back in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
The immigration policy was restrictive to doctors from India.
Okay.
Uh, they
And
would
you were
not
a
say,
researcher.
yeah, but I was a doctor, so
Right. Mm-hmm.
so if I come on for the purpose of coming and seeing patients, they would have blocked me. But
Mm-hmm.
because I had an invitation letter to present a paper at the
Mm.
UCLA symposium,
Okay.
the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi gave me the visa, and I
Mm-hmm.
came to give my presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came to give my presentation, I came about 2 weeks in advance because
Mm-hmm.
I had so many, over the years in research, I had made friends with
Oh,
many
okay.
other
Okay.
scientists.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them I'm coming to the UCLA symposium. They said, "Oh, if you're coming there, can you stop by our lab? We would love to chat
Mm-hmm.
with you. We'd
Mm-hmm.
love to show us our work and we can
Mm-hmm.
share data and share
Mm-hmm.
ideas." So I I did some city hopping. I first landed in New York,
Mm-hmm.
gave gave my presentation at the Rockefeller University. Then
Mm-hmm.
from there I went to Philadelphia, University of Philadelphia. Then
Mm-hmm.
went to Pittsburgh. From Pittsburgh I went to Boston. I gave a presentation in MGH, then at
Mm-hmm.
Brigham and Women's. So I was just doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those like a mini speaking tour,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and but it's all about my research.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, and one of my stops was a sleepy little town in Arkansas called Ardmore, Ardmore, Texas. It was the Texarkana
Right. Right there on the
Panhandle.
border. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Ardmore, Texas. It's called the Samuel Roberts Noble Foundation.
Ah.
So when I got the invitation from them, I thought, oh my God, Nobel, it must be the Nobel
Sounds,
laureate.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm.
It is not, it has got nothing to do with Nobel. But I was all excited. I was young at that time. I was 28 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, And so at the MGH, I was giving my presentation, and as I was giving my talk, there was a small group of people, and I had already started my talk. I had gone about 5 or 10 minutes into my talk, and I noticed the back door of the auditorium open, and a small man, a very short man, quietly sneaked in and sat at the back row, the last chair, and remained silent. And I gave my entire presentation. After my prayer, everyone clapped, and then they got up and left. And I was standing in the stage, collecting my slides. In those days, we had actual slides that we put
Right. Yes.
in a
And
carousel.
then you had the PowerPoint
No PowerPoint. There was no
Right.
PowerPoint.
Okay. So
It
just
was
slides. Yes.
a slide projector, an actual slide
Right.
projector with a carousel.
Yep. That would always get stuck.
with a tray. Yeah. So I was picking my slides out of that and putting it back into my folder. And I felt somebody standing behind me. I turned around and I saw this little old man who was sitting in the back had come up. And he was bald, and he said, "I liked your presentation." And I said, "Yeah," and thank you. And I said, "Are you planning to continue to do this work?" And said, "Yeah, I definitely am interested in continuing to do it. Would you like to do this work in my department?" And I said,
Oh,
yeah, I would love to, but pardon me, what is,
who are you?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who you are. Yeah. And then he says, "Oh, I'm Kurt Isselbacher." And that blew me. Just to give you perspective, the most authoritative textbook in internal medicine in the world is a book called Harrison's Textbook of Medicine.
Okay.
And in 1988, the edition that I was studying at that time was the 12th edition. Kurt Isselbacher was the senior editor of the Harrison's Textbook of Internal Medicine. He was the editor of the book that was my Bible. And I was standing face to face with him,
and he wanted you.
He wanted me, and like a stupid guy, I said, "I would love to, but I still have a few more."
I've got some more things I have to do.
I got a few more universities to attend. Do you mind if I give you my answer afterwards?
He'd probably never been turned down.
No, I didn't turn him down. I postponed
But that's true. Yes. Yeah.
But I don't know what came over me. I just said that. I blurted that out, and he said, "Oh, absolutely. Yeah, give me a call when you finish your tour." So I finished my tour, and I called him up, and I said, "I finished everything. I would like to join your lab." So he says, "Sure, go ahead. I'm going to transfer your call to the front desk, and Rhoda will take
we'll get your paperwork done."
Yeah, Rhoda will take some details from you, and she will mail your paperwork. So I said, "That's okay, thank you." And that's it. And then I'm done, and I caught my flight back, and I went all the way back to India. 2 weeks later, I get from Rhoda, I get a whole thick envelope with a full paperwork for getting a J1 visa. And the interesting thing in that visa was, it said in that, alien of exceptional ability, 2-year return clause does not apply.
Wow.
So there's a visa category where the J1 visa has a stipulation that after 2 years you have to return to your home country and stay there for 2 years before
and then you can come back again,
seeking to re-enter. So, but this one, she had it stamped from Harvard, and I didn't know Harvard had that power at that time. I don't think it has the power now in this administration.
No, those things have changed, but that's
but in those days, Harvard could actually say that, and the embassy would say yes.
They just went okay.
So I went to the embassy. I gave in my paperwork. I'm sitting there in this room full of other potential immigrants, and everyone is being called to the interview, the visa officer, and everyone is getting rejection.
Oh,
Bang,
no.
bang, bang. No, no, you know. And then I get my name called, and they said, and so I walk up to the interviewer's desk. He said, no, 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 go down to the side room there, pay your visa fee, and pick up your visa.
You're done. You don't even have to interview.
Yeah. So I just landed here, and the first day I landed in Boston, my boss picks me up, and he says, just leave your bags in the car. He picked me up at Logan. He said, leave your bags in the car. We are going to the Charlestown Navy Yard, Boston Harbor. We are going on a Boston Harbor cruise. I had landed just at noon.
How fun.
So 1 hour cruise for you buy the ticket for about $15, and then another $10 gets you a sandwich. A whole bunch of scientists from the cancer center. We all get on the boat. I'm fresh off the boat on another
Literally.
boat. Yeah, I'm fresh off the boat and I'm on another boat. And my boss, he introduces me. He says, David, I would like you to meet our new postdoc, Ravi Iyer. And I shake hands, and he says, hi, I'm David Baltimore. And that blew me again. David Baltimore was the Nobel laureate who got his Nobel Prize for discovering HIV virus. So they are all standing there and they're talking science at a level that was above me.
Wow.
And I'm standing there and I suddenly realized that these guys are thinking that I am understanding what they're saying. And I am petrified.
And you just nod a lot.
I'm petrified that they'll ask me something. And if they find out that I don't know it, they're going to deport me right then
You're
and there.
back on the next plane. That was why they kept your suitcases, right?
Yeah. So that whole day, I was scared, out of my wits. And then I go right back to my apartment and go straight out, pull out all my books and start studying. I said, oh my God, I'm going to know what they're talking about. So that was my first day at Harvard.
Wow.
So the beauty of a place, and that's the first thing I recognized about the power of environment to shape your brain. See, it's not that I was not smart.
Right. Because you're, and I read part of your book. You were a genius, and you are a genius level.
But when you are surrounded by people of equal caliber, your game goes to a different level.
Right.
So
you're not the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, but then it's like everyone is steel. And steel sharpens steel, and your game goes up and you become as sharp as they are or sharper, and it keeps mounting. And that told me something about the importance of creating a high performance ecosystem.
Right.
See, when you create a high performance team, you cannot create, and there was something that my dad once told me long later. He said, if you want to have high performance, then hire eagles, because only an eagle can fly like an eagle.
Right.
And training only makes an eagle fly higher, fly faster, and strike harder. But if you hire turkeys,
that's the level you're at.
you can give all the training you want. At the end of the day, all you're going to get is a lot of flap, flap, gobble, gobble, and
they're still turkeys.
A whole bunch of dust and feathers. So that influenced me way ahead. And in my entire hiring program, ever since then, I never look at degrees. I look
Right.
at learning capacity, learning capability, the willingness to put oneself at risk and actually look stupid, the willingness uh, to be endangered by the situation, and the ability to not so much fail as the ability to get up from failure and try again.
Right.
So these were the things that determined my hiring programs ever since from that point. I never ever looked at a degree. I have hired more people who were dropouts and groomed them to be stellar
Right.
than people that I have hired with degrees.
I love that. And it really what the saying, as you were talking about that, we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with.
Yes.
That was what I was thinking of also. If you hang out with turkeys, you're gonna be a turkey. Now, we're not saying turkeys are bad.
No, but if your goal is to fly, then you don't want to hang out with turkeys.
No, you can't hang out with a bird that can't fly.
Yeah, if your goal is to rummage around and peck and eat all the ticks and lice, then yeah, definitely
That's okay.
be a turkey. Be a turkey.
Right. And I think especially, well, I was going to say kids, but we do this as adults too. And now let's be honest, sometimes those are the fun people, right? Those are that's where we're going to party. That's where we're going to, but, and so that's, and we need that. We need those releases, but we should never be, and I kind of joked about it, we should never be content to be the smartest person in the room.
No.
It should always be, that you are there, and now you might be their equal, but you are still learning.
I never felt I was equal. That was one thing.
Okay.
I may have been, see, the whole business about equality is the other person's opinion about you.
Right.
I have never felt that I was equal or I was the smartest. I felt always, though, that I had this intense amount of curiosity. For me, life is so. People ask me, you're a doctor, but you do so many other things. How do you do that? And the thing is, I am not a doctor because I want to be a doctor. I am a doctor because I want to understand life. I want to study life.
Right.
For me, life is the most fascinating thing. And my only question right from the beginning is, how does life work? And how do you make life work when it doesn't work? All right. So, and that particular ethos has carried me in the field of healing and medicine, into the field of research, into the field of leadership. It's in every case, it is just life that is having a block, that is not able to express itself to its fullest, to its greatest possibility. And the participants of that chapter are stuck, and you are either the stuckness is because of a biological problem or a pathological problem or a psychological problem, or the stuckness is due to an organizational problem or a cultural problem. But in every case, it is life that is not able to manifest to its maximum possibility.
Right.
And my entire business is how to power your possible. And what do you do by, and I love Malcolm X's statement where he says, we will use any means necessary. And I do that. Right. I'll use any means necessary to achieve the goal of enabling possibility. And in that search of what makes life work, that has taken me across the board, from medicine to basic science, to organizations, to dog training, to writing books, to public speaking. In every phase, it has always been how does life work and how do you make it work when it doesn't work?
Right. And it comes back to what you were saying before. It's that innate curiosity. And, it's the little 3-year-old saying, why, right? And the bad thing is, as we get older, somehow that we don't have that as much. And maybe it comes from being told, stop asking why, just go along with it, do whatever.
No, it is partly that, but it is built into our DNA to lose that. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Um, let's go to the animal world.
Okay.
A lion that is crouched in a hunt. What is the most important thing for that lion at that moment?
To have the successful hunt.
It is the ability to predict where the prey animal is going to appear. That's all. Because the lion, I think I lost you in
I think we're good. You kind of froze a little bit, but we're back.
Yeah. So I'll repeat again just in case, and you can always splice it out on the replay.
And it's important to hear.
Yeah. So a lion that is crouched in a hunt, the most important thing for the lion in that moment is the ability to predict where the prey is going to appear. And to help itself in that prediction, it uses its memory of prior encounters to create a mental map of the scenario that would predict when that deer or the wildebeest is going to cross its path.
It's going to the water. It's whatever it is.
Yeah, or it'll this particular scent coming in the wind is going to tell me that the wildebeest is this far away, and so on and so forth. So in this manner, it uses its memory of prior impressions from its sense organs to build an anticipatory strategy that will predict where the wildebeest is going to appear.
Right.
And it does it for the only purpose of securing the advantage of its meal. All right. The wildebeest, similarly, is doing the same thing.
Right. It wants to survive.
It wants to survive. And it wants to predict where the lion is hiding, and it does the same thing. Implicit in this prerogative of struggle for life, we build pictures that preclude the why question of our life.
We just kind of have it set.
Yes. The lion is never going to ask, why does this scent smell this way each time? It is going to say, oh, it smells like the way it smelled yesterday.
It just is.
It just is. The isness of our past experience determines the prisons of our world.
Okay.
Each thing that is so prevents life from showing up any different way. Because it is so. So and so is a horse's ass. So and so is a nice person. So and so is the isness of who we are, of all the isnesses of our life, box us into a particular mode of life. And that particular mode of life limits the options available to us.
Right, because we refuse to see that there is something different.
Correct. And those options that are available to us become constrained, and it also becomes the same way each time. As a result, we will find ourselves repeating the same patterns.
Mm-hmm.
We keep hiring ourselves into the same job, keep
Mm-hmm.
getting the same kind of boss, keep dating the same kind of person.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It is always, and it is all those similarities,
Mm-hmm.
the repetitive themes of our life comes out of the isnesses of our life
Mm-hmm.
that box our options.
Okay.
And so let's put it this way. When each preconceived notion that is built into our brain as constructs, they are the descriptions of a past moment.
Mm-hmm.
They are not the experience of the past moment. It is like going into a restaurant and saying, instead of eating the meal that is placed in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
choosing to eat the description of the meal, which is the
Ah,
menu.
okay.
People live their life eating the menu,
Mm-hmm. Not exploring.
never experiencing the
Mm-hmm.
meal.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wonder why their life lacks joy,
Mm-hmm.
lacks
Mm-hmm.
spontaneity, lacks the excitement
Mm-hmm.
of newness. Why every day is just the, you
Mm-hmm.
know, oh yeah, same old,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or same shit, different day.
Mm-hmm.
All these statements of
Mm-hmm.
our life are basic allegories for the
Mm-hmm.
fundamental isness of our
Mm-hmm.
life that boxes us into the
Mm-hmm.
prisons that we are.
Mm-hmm.
And any moment of freedom from the prison
Mm-hmm.
comes only when we put ourselves in a situation where none of our previous experiences apply.
Okay.
When we jump off a cliff in a wingsuit
Mm-hmm.
and say, wow, I want that experience, because we have never done that before. So
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there is no prior box to put that
Mm-hmm.
experience in. So this is the essence that traps people into constant pursuit of variety.
Mm-hmm.
When they realize that the variety of life is got nothing to do with the newness of the experience, it is just to do with the presence of being present
Mm-hmm.
to the experience rather than being present to your description of the
Mm-hmm.
experience. And
So how do we get out of that? Because we hate change, right? That's kind of one of those things. We
yeah,
hate change,
so
even if where we are is not good. We hate change, and more importantly, we hate the unknown.
yeah,
So how do we break out of those patterns?
because the unknown is scary because
Mm-hmm.
it is unpredictable,
Right.
and anything unpredictable has the potential to do injury to us.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mentally, physically, whatever.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that is so hardwired into your
Mm-hmm.
DNA from millions of years of
Right.
evolution.
We're protecting ourselves.
You
Mm-hmm.
can't get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is to recognize that you are not a single person. You are a binary person. You are
Mm-hmm.
two people.
Mm-hmm.
One is the person who experiences,
Okay.
and the second is the person who describes the experience.
Ah.
The problem is the person who experiences existed when you were born
Mm-hmm.
and you had no library of descriptions.
Right.
And as you built the library of descriptions, you
Mm-hmm.
started depending more and more on the description,
Mm-hmm.
and the description determined the way you experience things. And that experience, that described experience that was experienced, strengthens the description
Mm-hmm.
even more,
Mm-hmm.
which then reinforces
Right.
the
Mm-hmm.
next
Mm-hmm.
experience, that reinforces the
Mm-hmm.
same description, that reinforces the next experience, until finally experience recedes into the background and all you're left with is a description.
Mm-hmm.
Descriptions are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Experience is alive.
Right.
we start dying from the age of 5 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to break this is two things. One is to accept that you are a binary person.
Okay.
Because as long as you rebel against these two
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm.
you say, no, 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 I don't do this. This is not me. I'm actually alive.
Mm-hmm.
No, you got to accept
Mm-hmm.
that you were
You're
born,
both. Mm-hmm.
you are both,
Mm-hmm.
and neither is better than the other, but
Mm-hmm.
one offers you freedom, the other offers you safety,
Mm-hmm.
and the two cannot coexist equally.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be willing to put one subordinate over
Mm-hmm.
the other.
Right.
If you put safety as dominant,
Mm-hmm.
then you subordinate freedom.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If
Because you're
you
going to stay in that box.
if you put freedom dominant, you have to subordinate safety.
Mm-hmm.
That is the essence. And most people are scared to do the second option because
Right.
they don't know, they
Mm-hmm.
have never developed the ability
Mm-hmm.
to straddle and move with
Mm-hmm.
ease between these
Mm-hmm.
two states.
Right.
What I teach in cognitive alignment is this. There is a very simple set of exercises, just like going to the gym. If you lift a dumbbell, 5 pound dumbbell, 20 reps today, and then after a month, you can do 10 pounds at 30 reps.
Mm-hmm.
And then a month later, 20 pounds at 30 reps, and then 40 reps.
Mm-hmm.
And you can keep going up the ladder of weights. And as you build your muscles, and you can do that by muscle
Mm-hmm.
group, like that, you can recultivate the inborn gift of living in experience that everyone possessed as a 5-year-old child.
Mm-hmm.
And they have lost touch with it. And all you have to do is 5 minutes of observation every day
Mm-hmm.
without narrative.
Okay.
The tendency to have a narrative is automatic,
Mm-hmm.
but you
Because you want to
start,
explain.
yeah, but the willingness to give up narrative is the first step.
Mm-hmm.
And you first choose a place and space that you can control distractions
Mm-hmm.
and other
Mm-hmm.
challenges, because you will never give up the desire to have a narrative unless you are in a safe space,
Mm-hmm.
because narrative is safety, so you're never
Right.
willing to risk safety
Mm-hmm.
unless you already feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Once you feel safe, you can experiment with experiencing alone,
Mm-hmm.
and you can choose any mundane task: calligraphy, painting,
Mm-hmm.
Japanese tea ceremony, breath
Mm-hmm.
watching, yoga,
Mm-hmm.
watching a flame, a lamp. You
Mm-hmm.
can do all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Driving down the road, you can pay attention to driving. Whatever you pay attention to is experience.
Mm-hmm.
When you pay attention to the input from your 5 senses, you are experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
When you pay attention to your description of that input, you are paying attention to your descriptions.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You don't, you stop trying to pay attention to your description, start paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to the input from your
Mm-hmm.
5 senses,
Right.
whether it is taste, touch,
Mm-hmm.
smell, or light
Mm-hmm.
or hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And in this process, you will enter a period of focused, concentrated attention. And at some point, you will break through into a psychological state called a flow state.
Mm-hmm.
A flow state is a focused, unipolar direction of attention that shifts your concept of time and space.
Mm-hmm.
Because time and space is actually a description.
Mm-hmm.
And once you will actually feel the expansive sense of being.
Mm-hmm.
Musicians experience it. Athletes
Right. The runner's
experience,
high. Mm-hmm.
yeah, runners high,
Mm-hmm.
tennis players.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball players in the
Mm-hmm.
zone. Football players, and when you are in that flow state, you will see options that were invisible to you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Tom Brady, when he is in the flow state, sees where the gap that is going to appear before the gap appears.
He's able to anticipate it.
Because it is not a conscious, he is, what happens is his sense of being expands to cover the entire zone of field in front of him, and it includes the being of every player. Therefore, he becomes hypersensitive to the movements of every player, right up to their subconscious triggers that they indicates their movement before they even begin their movement. So there's a part of his brain that actually senses where that opening is going to come, and he throws the ball there and gets caught, and
he usually does really pretty well.
Yeah. So, but that's a flow state. You can acquire the skill to enter a flow state at will. It is a skill that you learn through focused attention. And when you get people say, oh, I want to get it in a month. Well, you don't get a six-pack abdomen and a ripped body in a month.
You have to work at it.
You work at it. And if something as gross as muscles and a physical body still takes you 12 months to acquire it, you think something as subtle as your mind that you have willfully trained in a different direction for 40 years, you're going to turn it in 40 days? No way.
Right.
But you will. You give it time, give yourself the benefit and the grace of a trained coach and someone who has already been the path and who has gone to the other end, who can guide you on the steps and can anticipate the pitfalls that you will experience before you experience them, and steer you around them. Such a coach can take you the distance and get you to the point where you can become a master of the flow state. And once you're a master of the flow state, you're a master of anything you touch. Anything you do, you will do perfectly. And you can do the things like I do, go do research, go write books, go speak, and move from one to the other in a single day without hesitation, because you are actually in perfect sync with reality around you. You are at that moment, you are no longer eating the menu. You are actually enjoying the meal of life.
Right. And I love that you mentioned that there are pitfalls and things. It's kind of like peaks and valleys, right? We're not just continually going up. There's going to be setbacks. And that's usually then where somebody says, nope, not working. And they stop.
Yes. And you need someone who has been that path to guide you. To also, the other thing is, progress is never linear.
Right.
You will make progress and then you will plateau. You may not pitfall, but you will go through a phase where you may not sense any progress at all. And what I call that phase is, I call that underground growth. So I have a favorite analogy called the bamboo forest. So when you plant a bamboo shoot, bamboo you plant by taking a piece of root and you bury it in the ground. And then when you that root then germinates. So when you plant that, you water that place, nothing grows. 1 month passes, nothing happens. 6 months passes, nothing happens. 1 year passes, nothing happens. And it goes on for 5 years, nothing happens. And then on the 5th year, a shoot breaks through. And then in 90 days, that shoot grows into a bamboo pole, 100 feet tall in 90 days. Now, what was that shoot doing for 5 years? If you dig under the ground, you will see that for 5 years, that shoot was not even synthesizing. It was spreading a root system
Right.
under the
It was
ground,
gathering. Mm-hmm.
a root system under the ground
Mm-hmm.
that would provide the impetus for that
Mm-hmm.
explosive growth.
Right.
So, I mean, that doesn't mean that the path to acquiring a flow state will require 5 years of being in the doldrums.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way it works. But you have to experience periods of static,
Mm-hmm.
no progress. But
Mm-hmm.
then there will be a rise,
Mm-hmm.
and then there'll be. So it's like you're chipping away at a wall, and then at some tipping point you break through.
Mm-hmm.
Then you find another layer behind it, and
Mm-hmm.
then you chip away, and then
Mm-hmm.
you break. In this way, you go through several ossified layers of your own psyche
Mm-hmm.
to come to an expansive state of being that
Right.
then affects anything you do in a very, very powerful way.
Mm-hmm. Right. And some of those have been with us forever, right? I've talked with guests before where we've talked about the fact that, when you're very young, if somebody tells you you can't do that, you shouldn't do that. We get a lot of little girls shouldn't do that, right? Little girls shouldn't study science or whatever it is. Little boys have to be tough. Little boys don't cry. I mean, all of those things. And that starts that process of having that wall there. It would be interesting. And, obviously I don't talk to Tom Brady, but you wonder, you know, did he have people that said, you can't do X? And then he had to work through that. And because I think, that is part of why athletes have coaches, because sometimes those coaches are
They break
saying
through on
you
that.
can't do that. And sometimes they're doing it to make them get through it.
So there are two things that I want to bring up on this. One is, so whether it is an external statement that
Mm-hmm.
you should be this way or that way, or you should
Mm-hmm.
not be this way or that way, and whether that external statement is gender neutral or gender biased,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter,
Right. It's just
or
a negative statement. Mm-hmm.
or it is an internal statement that you created,
Mm-hmm.
an opinion you made about life and yourself
Mm-hmm.
that serves as the block.
Mm-hmm.
A coach who has been the way usually knows what the levers are to the
Mm-hmm.
traps that hold you back.
Mm-hmm.
And a very skilled coach will always put you in situations where either through his effort or even better, through your own effort,
Mm-hmm.
you are able to, he'll put you in situations where you yourself trip the lever that
Mm-hmm.
springs open the trap
Mm-hmm.
and sets you free.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have an aha moment.
Mm-hmm. Right. I
Then
can do that.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens is the vigilant coach will make sure that you do not allow that lever to reset
Mm-hmm.
and trap you again,
Right.
so that you stay sprung,
Mm-hmm.
you stay free.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why you need a coach. The
Mm-hmm.
coach knows, one, he is able to sense what the levers are
Mm-hmm.
that are operating on
Mm-hmm.
you. He senses what kind of blocks these levers
Mm-hmm.
control. He senses, he knows instinctively what are the techniques and methodologies that are best suited for you to
Mm-hmm.
spring your lever,
Mm-hmm.
which may be different than somebody else's lever.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then he sets the scenario where the lever gets sprung and you are
Mm-hmm.
set free. And after that, he makes sure that you don't fall back
Mm-hmm.
into that trap. You may
Mm-hmm.
fall into a different trap.
Right.
Then
Mm-hmm.
that's another set of levers that you go
Mm-hmm.
through the
Mm-hmm.
process again until finally all the traps are sprung.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing that I wanted to bring up is there is something to be said for the miracle of genetics.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are blessed just like some people are good in math, some people are good in language,
Right.
Um, some people are blessed to not make many limiting statements about themselves.
Ah.
And when you find such a person, you just celebrate that and you run with it just and treat it just like somebody is a natural prodigy playing the piano at 4 or a violinist at 3 years old. It's a gift. Such a person is gifted. So the life is so wide and so vast in its varied presentations that gifts come in so many flavors in so many ways that one form of a gift is the gift of lack of self defeat or lack of self limitation, and that's an enormous gift. And people who are blessed with that gift for whatever reason, you never look a gift horse in the mouth, you just take it and ride it. That's it.
Right.
And
and
so
we're
that's
amazed when we see people like that, right?
and we say praise to the Lord for that, and then move on and try to make sure that gift translates into something meaningful and impactful for the world. The other thing I wanted to say to your comment of these methods have been around forever. Absolutely. The opportunity to gain mastery over life experience has been offered to humanity for centuries through the methodology of retreating from life as a recluse into a monastery. People have gained vast mastery over the unpredictable nature of life by retreating from life and spending years and years and decades in a monastery, cultivating their inner resilience and inner focus, and then coming out to preach and save the downtrodden masses. And that has always been the case. We have plenty of experience with stories all the time. In today's world, people are asking, how can I gain some level of mastery or life experience while staying in life?
Right. I don't want to retreat and hide.
I cannot retreat.
Right.
I can't give up my attachment to family and my children and my society and my community. Or I have a duty that I see that is, I will be doing a number of people injury if I just disappear.
Right.
And the amount of injury that I do by doing such a disappearance is likely to psychologically impact me sufficiently that it will block me from any progress that I would make. So how do I gain mastery over life's experiences while staying with my hands?
While having life experiences.
Yeah, while having. And the only strategy for that is to retreat internally while you are engaged in life.
Right.
And the method of observation, practicing it for 5 minutes, then extending it for 10 minutes, initially in a controlled environment, you shut the door, turn the music off, shut off your phone, and you have 5 minutes of privacy time. Then you expand that to 10 minutes, then you expand that to 30 minutes, then an hour, then 1 hour of secluded time. Then you say, okay, now I'm going to try to do it for 5 minutes while I'm actually at work. Then I'm going to do 5 minutes while I'm moving from person to person. Then I'm going to try to see if I can actually zone into a flow state while I am in the midst of a conversation. And then finally, you get to a point where you go through an entire day internally segregated, but externally engaged. And that is when you become Tom Brady on the Super Bowl of life.
Right. Oh my gosh, we could go on forever. I mean, this is just so interesting. Because then, of course, my next thought, and we have no time to discuss this, is now what happens to someone like Tom Brady when he can't do what he was doing? So he's no longer the quarterback.
So that analogy is not exactly accurate, because the person who gains mastery on his flow state gains mastery over the way life presents to him.
Okay. So he just moves to the next thing.
He just moves through life always in a flow state.
Okay.
He does not have Tom Brady's skill is location dependent. Your analogy would apply if you were able to go into a flow state only when the room was shut down and in a closed environment. But once you develop the ability to take your skill and apply it to everyday actions, then you have broken free of the limitation of the environment with which you manifest your flow state.
Right.
You manifest your flow state as an essence of your own being.
Right. You are not defined by being whatever that role is.
You're, just as you don't go through life saying, I am a man, I am a man, or I am a woman, I am a woman. Or you don't go through life saying, oh, I am breathing now. And this is an ingoing breath and that's an outgoing breath. It is natural.
It's just there.
It is a natural state of your self-expression. There is no questioning it. There is no reminding of it. There is no, but you are always in a flow state because you recognize that as yourself. And you then recognize this ability to create a narrative as an instrument that obeys the flow state. I'll give. There was a monk in India who gave me the key to unlocking this paradox. I was 22 years old, and I had gone to my father had taken me to a monastery in southern India, and this monk. He once, I asked him this question. I said that, I asked it from a spiritual aspect. I said that, you know, this spiritual state of absorption and this spiritual enlightened state, does it come through chanting or singing spiritual songs and hymns and things like that? How do you get it? So he said, no, if you chant hymns and sing songs like that, you'll only become a good singer. Or if you tell, if you give lectures on the scriptures, you'll only become a good storyteller. You will not acquire enlightenment, or you will not acquire the ability to stand grounded in the flow state. And I said, then why do people teach this? He said, the child, when it is in fever, and it is in the delirium of fever, the mother will give it medicine, but the medicine is bitter. So the mother mixes it with honey and sweetens it so that the child, it becomes palatable to the child, and the child will take the medicine. And that, so we bury the lessons that will take you to the flow state by mixing it with all this stories.
We sweeten it.
We sweeten it with these methods. And then he looked at me and he said, so you want to drink straight from the bottle, do you? And I said, no, I mean, but I really want to not have any confusion. So then he remained silent, and then he said, did you see the statue of the saint inside the temple? I said, yeah. So I said, what goes into your mind when you see that statue? I see the granite statue. It is very intense. The expression is alive. I feel that I'm actually standing before someone, some power. I can't move my gaze away from it. So he says, so you see the person, but you don't see the stone, do you? So I said, I said, what do you mean? So then he says, the when you see the saint, the stone disappears. When you see the stone, the saint disappears. So I said, oh, is that so? Then the saint is not real, it's only the stone. He says, no, not quite. Because when you see the stone, you don't see the stone dust, do you? And when you see the stone dust, you don't see the stone. And as he was saying, his words were pushing me deeper and deeper internally. And I was listening with intent focus. And then he said, when you see the stone dust, you don't see the atoms. When you see the atoms, you don't see the stone dust. When you see the atoms, you don't see the space in which the atoms rotate. And when you see space, you don't see atoms. And then finally, when you see space, do you see the person who sees space? That person who sees space, that entity that sees the space behind all things is who you are. Everything else is a created description. And then we had a conversation. He said, did you have a bowel movement today? And I said, yeah. I said, after you had a bowel movement, did you spend time, examining the bowel movement,
contemplating it,
or contemplating it, or playing with it, or digging into it? You didn't. You just discarded it and moved on, did you? So I said, no, really. And I was wondering what he was saying. He said, your stomach and the digestive organs of your body took in the food that you gave it and converted it into useful products for your body. And one of the products that the digestive system created was the excreta.
Right.
Like that, he said, your brain takes in the input from your five senses and converts it into thoughts and dreams and plans and actions and anticipations and anxieties and hopes and attractions and revulsions and repulsions and all the constructs that you think is life. All of it is just excreta created for the purpose of sustaining your body. You're playing with excreta, thinking it is life and stinking up your life. Life exists in just the experience. So when you teach people to separate these two things, you give them freedom. And once they have tasted it once, they know where to find it.
Right.
They'll keep going back. The reason people don't find freedom is because they don't know how to recognize it. It is there in them all the time.
Wow. This is absolutely incredible. And we have to continue this conversation. It's been so interesting. But we are at the top of the hour, and so we will have you on again. But you are, as I mentioned, an author. You are a keynote speaker. You do workshops. You even do a college prep program in addition to everything else that you do. And so if someone says, hey, I want more, how do they find you?
Come to my website. It's www.driyer.com.
Very easy.
driyer.com. And you can reach me through that at any time. You can email me. My email is right up at the header.
Right up at the very top. Yes.
Yeah. You can get me at any time. And I respond to all my emails.
I love it.
And it's me. It is not an AI bot. It is not an assistant. I personally respond to all emails.
I love it. I love it.
And if you're interested in the programs I do, I work with individuals, I work with companies, I work with organizations, and at every point, yes, everything requires time, energy, and resources, and depending on your requirement of what you need to accomplish, if you are really requiring to accomplish something and it is important enough, you will find the time, energy, and resources to do it. I don't have to tell you to do it. My father had another wonderful thing. He once asked me to do something. And then I said, yeah, sure, Dad. And then I went through a couple of days. And then he said, did you do that? I asked you 2 days ago. Did you do it? So, no, I didn't have time. I said, don't ever say I didn't have time. If you wanted to write a note to the girl next door, you would have written it on a bar of soap and given it to her. You did not think that this thing that I asked of you was important enough to find the time in the day to do it. So don't ever tell me you did not have time. Say you did not feel it important enough. Be honest about it. So if something in your life, I have never ever seen somebody who had a problem of sufficient magnitude to actually sit there and not do anything about it with once they have been shown the possibility of actually solving it. If they continue to stay in it, it is because that problem is actually validating something about them, and it is actually something that they want to have in their life.
It is their choice that they have made.
Yeah. So I'm always okay with people being stuck, and I'm always okay with people who wish to get unstuck. And I work with people who wish to get unstuck.
I love it. I love it. Well, we will have the link to your website, of course, in the show notes. And as I said, we have to have more of this discussion because it is so very interesting. But until we chat again, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Like I said, the opportunity to gain a certain level of mastery over the experience of life is available at any time without necessarily retreating from life. The only requirement is the will to commit yourself to the work required and the daily discipline to do it. The skill set is easy, available to all without restriction. The persons who are capable of showing you the way are available. How far and how much do you want to power your possible? That's all there is.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I've been having such an absolutely delightful conversation with Dr. Ravi Iyer. I'm Deb Creer, and until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.